South Korea and Pakistan strike trade deals with the US just before a tariff deadline. Taiwan's opposition slams the government's reported plans to donate to an Israeli settlement in the occupied West Bank. Opponents of the death penalty launch a petition to scrap recent changes to execution rules. Plus, cleanup efforts are still underway in central and southern Taiwan as relentless rainfall wreaks havoc. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Reece. South Korea and Pakistan are the two latest countries to announce trade deals with the United States, as the rest of the world rushes to do the same before a US deadline set for August 1st. Though no tariff rate has been announced for Taiwan, the cabinet says the two sides have come to a consensus on trade levies and other issues. As Chris Gorin reports, US President Donald Trump has been using tariffs not only for trade leverage, but for political goals as well.
South Korea announces a new trade deal with the United States that includes a 15% tariff on most Korean goods.
We have reduced the tariff on our main export item, automobiles, to 15%. For semiconductor and pharmaceutical sectors, which were scheduled to have tariffs imposed in the future, we will also receive treatment that is not much worse compared to other countries.
U.S. President Donald Trump, in his own statement, boasting the pact puts zero tariffs on U.S. goods and commits South Korea to invest $350 billion in projects he says he will personally direct, and another $100 billion for American natural gas purchases. Trump also announcing a deal with Pakistan, which will see joint development of its oil reserves. The fresh accords with South Korea and Pakistan expand a patchwork of U.S. tariff rules. Some nations have negotiated terms, while others have been hit with penalty tariffs. The rest of the world, including Taiwan, left scrambling to strike a deal before the August 1st deadline. Trump has used the tariffs not only to achieve trade goals, but other political aims as well. A 25% tariff and a forthcoming additional penalty was announced against India for buying Russian oil amid the war in Ukraine and for its membership in the bloc of countries known as BRICS.
Well, we're negotiating right now, and it's also BRICS. You know, they have BRICS, which is basically a group of countries that are anti the United States, and India is a member of that, if you can believe it. And it's an attack on the dollar, and we're not going to let anybody attack the dollar. So it's partially BRICS, and it's partially this trade situation.
India, for its part, vowing to protect their national interests. Trump has also placed a 50% tariff on Brazil, Latin America's largest economy. The reason? The prosecution of the country's former president and Trump ally, Jair Bolsonaro, for an alleged coup attempt. But Brazil's current president remains defiant.
Experiências nesse país. Eu estou saindo daqui completa porque eu vou me reunir ali para defender outra soberania, a soberania do povo brasileiro em função das medidas anunciadas pelo presidente dos Estados Unidos.
Some from the two countries facing punishment say the high tariffs may mean they need to look beyond the U.S. market.
If the exports to America decline, then we have to look at South America. I think our Prime Minister had already visited one or two countries in South America.
When Trump launches a rotating tariff machine gun indiscriminately and without good reason, this creates great insecurity for all companies and sectors that have commercial relations with the U.S., so they are forced to seek new markets to diversify.
Meanwhile, negotiations with the U.S.'s largest trading partners, Canada and China, are ongoing, with Ottawa saying a deal can still be reached past the deadline.
Look, these are complex, they're comprehensive, they're constructive negotiations with the Americans are ongoing. It's possible that they may not conclude by the 1st of August, but we'll see.
Trump's tariffs continue to redraw the map of global trade, and the next chapter may start as soon as Friday. Scott Huang and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
A top US senator is planning to visit Taiwan in August, according to the Financial Times. Republican Roger Wicker, who chairs the Senate Armed Services Committee and is one of Taiwan's strongest supporters in Congress, will head the delegation. The visit comes at a sensitive time for US-Taiwan ties, with concerns Washington may be shifting its focus, prioritizing trade talks and a possible summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping. It follows reports that Taiwan's president and defense minister recently delayed or cancelled trips to the US due to pressure from China. In light of these alleged changes to senior officials' travel plans, our reporter Alan Liu spoke with Bonnie Glaser from the German Marshall Fund to find out what this means for US-Taiwan relations.
How should we interpret alleged reports that the U.S. canceled Minister Gu's visit to the U.S.? And what does that signal for the U.S.-Taiwan relations?
There appear to have been several factors, I think, that led to this postponement, if this is in fact what took place. The U.S. conducted major strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities at the end of June. It was reported that that was the primary reason. But I think it's fair to say that it was also likely that some U.S. officials worried that a visit by Taiwan's defense minister could complicate U.S.-China trade negotiations. And the Financial Times reported that Minister Gu's visit was actually canceled after a call between President Trump and China's leader Xi Jinping. I'm confident that these policy talks will be rescheduled, but it is unclear whether they will be held at the level that was initially planned. As for what this signals, it suggests to me that there's a high level of sensitivity in the Trump administration about the U.S.-China relationship.
It looks like the trade talks between China and the U.S. have played a key role in the cancellation or delay of President Li's and Minister Gu's visit to the U.S. To what extent do you think Beijing's economic leverage is influencing the decision-making in the Trump administration?
In terms of Beijing's leverage, I think what is really new is the willingness of China to deploy the rare earth restrictions against the United States. They did this in 2010 against Japan. It had mixed results. The Japanese were able to obtain the deliveries of the rare earth magnets through various means, and ultimately China lifted those restrictions. But now the new element is that in our negotiations with China, the United States has allowed export controls to be on the table. We have never before said that any of our export controls are negotiable. Previous administrations, and particularly the Biden administration, but before it, the first Trump administration, refused to do this, saying this is connected to U.S. national security. But because of the nature of decisions that were taken, I think, by the Trump administration, the Chinese decided that this was a weapon that they were ready to use. And so they have weaponized rare earths.
How significant is a presidential or cabinet-level visit to the U.S. in the U.S.-Taiwan relations, given that the two still have cooperations in many other aspects?
Simply postponing one round of defense policy talks or postponing a presidential transit does not signal at all that there is any weakening in the U.S.-Taiwan relationship, although some may want to interpret it that way, and it may be used as a narrative. Potentially, Beijing might like to use this to send disinformation or propaganda to Taiwan that the United States is unreliable, which it has been doing over the last few years, trying to convince the public in Taiwan that the United States is unreliable and would never come to Taiwan's defense. So that is a potential problem that I think could be a consequence of the postponement of these visits.
And that was Bonnie Glaser, a U.S. foreign policy analyst at the German Marshall Fund. Protesters have come out against Taiwan's government amid reports that it planned to donate to a medical project in an Israeli settlement. And on Thursday, opposition lawmakers joined in the criticism. But the Foreign Ministry says there were no concrete plans for a donation. Leslie Liao reports.
At a time of war, controversy, and alleged human rights abuses, there's outrage here in Taipei over reports that Taiwan plans to donate money to an Israeli settlement. An opposition coalition says the supposed act of charity would put Taiwan on the wrong side of history.
这列非法屯垦区常年来都是违反国际法院的判决，违反联合国的决议，因此从来没有任何一个国家、任何一个政府踏入非法屯垦区，公然表达支持，甚至于要捐款。
The issue? Reports that Taiwan's representative to Israel, Abby Lee, was pursuing a government donation to a medical project in an Israeli settlement in the occupied West Bank, in what would be the first foreign nation to contribute financially to the development of Israeli settlements in the Palestinian territory, which are illegal under international law. This spurring anger in Taiwan over what protesters see as their government's support of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's war in Gaza.
那个李亚平承诺要捐款协助以色列在非法殖民区的殖民区新建医院，但是事实上，巴勒斯坦人根本用不到那些医疗物资。在人道援助的旗帜下，我们实际上能看到的是台湾政府为种族屠杀输送弹药，这就是赤裸裸的共犯行为。
Taiwan's foreign ministry told TaiwanPlus that healthcare is an important area of cooperation for Israel and Taiwan. It said only potential collaboration was discussed and that no promises were made about funding. The ministry added that Taiwan has already donated $500,000 to Palestinian refugees in need of aid and that it will continue working for the global good. This backlash against the foreign ministry comes as international pressure on Israel is mounting over its war in Gaza, where more than 60,000 people have been killed since Israel began fighting there in 2023. Retaliation for an attack by Hamas that killed over 1,000 people in Israel and saw more than 240 civilians taken hostage. Humanitarian groups are warning of famine spreading in Gaza as Israel restricts aid entering the territory of over 2 million people. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney joined France and the UK in saying they would recognize a Palestinian state in September unless Israel agrees to a ceasefire.
Le Canada a l'intention de reconnaître l'État de la Palestine lors de la 80e session de l'Assemblée générale des Nations Unies en septembre 2025.
With global attention fixed on the Middle East, Taiwan's actions in the region will be put under the microscope. Chris Ma and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus.
A fragile ceasefire between Cambodia and Thailand has held for a second day, though both sides accuse one another of violations. Troops from both countries remain in areas where fighting first broke out over a contested border. Thailand has accused Cambodia of gunfire and border incursions, while Cambodia says Thailand has captured soldiers. The two sides agreed to an unconditional ceasefire following pressure from US President Donald Trump, who said no trade deals would be signed if fighting continued. The White House said Wednesday it reached trade agreements with both countries ahead of its August 1st tariff deadline. China also held talks with Thai and Cambodian representatives in Shanghai in a bid to maintain the shaky truce. China says it will host joint military drills with Russia next month.
中俄两国海军将于8月为俄弗拉迪沃斯托克附近海空域举行海上联合2025联合演习。联演结束后，双方部分参演兵力赴太平洋相关海域组织第6次海上联合巡航。
China says the drills are part of a routine bilateral cooperation and not aimed at any third party. The announcement comes after Taiwan held its largest ever military exercise in July, and while a joint exercise led by Australia and the US is ongoing. Non-stop torrential rains and flooding in central and southern Taiwan have left locals scrambling to clean up the mess. 8 cities and counties have suspended work and school for several days after 2 large storms tore through the area this month. Irene Lin has this story.
flood water pours down mountain highways like waterfalls, while other roads crack and crumble. As disaster response teams attempt to clear roads before more of them come crashing down in this part of Jiayi County in Taiwan's south. It's been days since Tropical Storm Komei, now a full typhoon, passed by Taiwan's eastern waters, triggering torrential rains and landslides in central and southern parts of the country. The storm front has brought over 250 millimeters of rain to Jiayi and over 400 millimeters each to Tainan, Kaohsiung, and Pingtung. The bad weather has caused severe damage in local communities. In Kaohsiung, flash floods nearly covered this bridge that connects residents of a remote community with the outside world. It's left 900 people stranded. Inside people's homes, floodwater carrying yellow dirt caused a mess that could take days or weeks to clean up. Communities here say a collapsed retaining wall nearby is causing flooding in their homes. So far, 8 cities and counties across central and southern Taiwan have suspended work and school, as residents and work crews continue to clean up roads and homes and brace for possible more bad weather ahead. Eason Chen and Irene Lin for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up after the break, Taiwanese Tai-gi gets support from afar with its first-of-its-kind book connecting the language with Scottish Gaelic.
Thank you for sharing our passion for food and Taiwan. Veggie Island explores the vibrant world of plant-based cuisine.
Wow, this is amazing.
While Taiwan on the Rocks uncovers the stories and craftsmanship behind every sip.
Have you ever tried Taiwanese beer?
Are you ready to taste even more of Taiwan?
人生的话，你发现说，我们大部分都是爱美。
我自己少遇见一朵花，我可能就不是这个样子。
开始思考什么叫做一个本土性。
大声的唱出来说我是台湾人。
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Opponents of the death penalty are slamming rule changes they say make it harder to stop executions. They've gathered at the legislature to protest and launched a petition that already has the signatures of more than 100 legal scholars. John Van Trieste reports.
The death penalty remains one of the most divisive human rights issues in a country that prides itself on human rights. Today, opponents of the death penalty, legal scholars and activists, have gathered to protest what they say is a recent step in the wrong direction. They're upset about changes to the regulations for executing the death penalty that took effect in April, and they've gathered at the legislature to demand a new revision. They say the changes were introduced too quickly and don't meet constitutional court demands about legal process and the protection of lives. They say the changes may even violate Taiwan's commitment to abide by UN covenants on human rights. But most of all, they say the changes encourage a more arbitrary use of the death penalty and make executions harder to stop.
法务部在今年的4月16号修正发布施行的这个执行死刑规则，却把这个所谓的执行障碍的要件，把它变得非常的宽松。也就是说，这个一定要检察总长提起非常上诉，然后一定要有停止死刑执行的这个裁定，然后这个宪法法庭也一定要有相关的这个裁定，才能够做这个停止执行死刑。
They say this puts potentially innocent lives at risk. The total number of people exonerated from wrongful death sentences in Taiwan has reached 7. They are also confused by what they say is a sharp about-face from a justice ministry that 15 years ago had vowed to phase out the death penalty.
降低了原来有的死刑执行障碍，剥削了受死刑宣告者要求履行最严格程序的权利。它非但不是积极逐步废死，反而是积极追求死刑的执行。
But while opponents of the death penalty are vocal, they are a minority. A survey by human rights groups released last September found public support for the death penalty to be above 80%. But these activists, academics, and lawyers say this shouldn't sway political figures. That may be a hard sell, though. Though these activists are meeting at the legislature, there are no lawmakers with them to voice support or even give their own point of view. TaiwanPlus reached out to the Justice Ministry, who said the rules do not violate Taiwan's Criminal Procedure Code or the Constitutional Court's September 2024 ruling on the death penalty. It said the changes provide prisoners with the strictest procedural safeguards. In all, 109 people have signed a petition to the Justice Ministry calling for it to reconsider its latest rules surrounding the death penalty. However much public support the death penalty may enjoy, they feel this is the only way for Taiwan to truly become a country that lives up to the values it preaches. Fu Huahong and John Van Trieste in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's competitors at the 2025 World University Games in Germany have returned home. The group met with President Lai Ching-te on Thursday. Lai celebrated the athletes' wins at the Games. He praised the women's Taekwondo Poomsae team and the men's table tennis team for winning Taiwan's first ever gold medals in their respective events. Taiwan won 5 gold, 13 silver and 7 bronze medals at the Games, ranking 9th overall on the medal table. Fortune magazine has released its annual Global 500 list with 6 Taiwanese companies making the list, most of them in the tech sector. The list ranks the world's largest corporations by their 2024 revenue. Foxconn, Apple's contract manufacturer, ranked the highest among Taiwanese companies, placing 28th with revenue of $213 billion. The AI boom propelled chip giant TSMC up 60 spots to 126th. With $90 billion in revenue. The other Taiwanese companies on the list are Quanta Computer, electronics manufacturer Pegatron, Taiwan's state-owned power company CPC, and ICT firm Wistron. The top 3 companies on the list are Walmart, Amazon, and China's State Grid. Once silenced, now spoken with pride. Taiwanese Tai-gi, a variant of the Hokkien language, is making a comeback. It's a language crucial to Taiwan's history and identity, and it's now getting unexpected assistance from thousands of kilometers away. Rick Glauert reports.
Praying for inspiration. 28-year-old writer Naomi Sim comes here to this 300-year-old temple in Taiwan's southern city of Tainan when she has writer's block, asking the local god to help her find the words she needs.
Naomi does not write
in the Mandarin Chinese. She and most people here grew up speaking and reading, but in Taiwanese Hokkien, also known as Tai-gi, a traditional language spoken here in Taiwan for hundreds of years, but once at risk of dying out.
I've heard that learning a language is like having another soul. I believe writing in my mother tongue can help me 100% inherit the culture.
Tai-gi is having a revival in Taiwan, particularly here in the country's south. Tainan is home to some of the most important cultural and historical sites in the country, many of them hundreds of years old. In the market and temples here, people speak Tai-gi freely. But this was not always the case. After the Chinese Civil War ended in 1949, the defeated nationalist government retreated to Taiwan and ruled it as a one-party state, enforcing the Chinese Mandarin spoken in China as the only national language and punishing those speaking Tai-gi in public. But since democratization, many Taiwanese have come to see Tai-gi as crucial to their national identity. An identity at risk from neighbouring China, which claims Taiwan as part of its sovereign territory and regularly threatens to annex. Young people here, many of whom grew up speaking Mandarin, are now helping to preserve and promote Tai-gi, with language events, publications and bookstores like this one.
在这个现代，学台语的意义是，可能有一寡是政治的意义，就是想要甲中国有一个分别，就 表现讲台湾是一个多元的岛屿、多元语言的岛屿，啊，佮有唔单是台语嘛，佮有客语啊、原住民族语啊。
Now, Tai-gi advocates here have also found solidarity in an unlikely source, a pair of British writers publishing a first-of-its-kind book connecting Tai-gi with Gaelic, the indigenous language of Scotland. They're bringing together 4 writers, 4 stories and 4 languages, Tai-gi, Mandarin, English and Gaelic. A project that sees Scotland's iconic landscapes described in Tai-gi and Taiwan's favourite goddesses speaking in Gaelic.
I think it's incredibly important that language diversity becomes something that is considered not a problem, but actually a resource for maybe thinking and feeling more broadly, something that is a positive contribution to a community.
Once spoken in hushed tones behind closed doors, Tai-gi is now echoing through classrooms, markets and bookstores, and printed in books that traverse continents. It's thanks to those who see language not as a line that divides, but as a thread that connects, that once silent voices are now being heard anew. John Su, Luffy Lee, Alec MacDonald and Rick Lowett for TaiwanPlus.
TaiwanPlus has a series of interviews with the people behind the new publication. You can find them on the Zoom In, Zoom Out section of our website. Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Finally, check out this rocket launch in southeastern India. It's carrying a new satellite to study the Earth. I'm Reece. Take care and see you next time.